then you have to actually seek funding for implementing your research idea and demonstrating to your funding agency that this type of idea is possible. All right. So when I am saying demonstrating your research idea, who are you demonstrating to? So in India, there are many government agencies that will fund you. So something like DST or SERB, Department of Science and Technology, Science and Research Board is there. So SERB is there, and they actually fund your research. There are other also. There are Department of Biotechnology. Different fields will have different funding agencies. So these are all government funding agencies, and they will fund your idea. Okay. So when they are funding your idea, the idea is that they will give you some fund, and at the end of the day, you have to build something or demonstrate something, write a software or something, and then demonstrate the idea that whatever for which you have funded me, I have completed that task, and that is now over. But in this process, there are various things that you have to take into account. So, okay, so I will only be concentrating on engineering research in this particular one, because I am mostly exposed to electrical engineering kind of funding. So that whatever experience I have, I will kind of tell you. So there are three main type of projects that generally funding agencies will fund. One is research type. Research type means, let's say you say that I want to see in motor drive in particular, let's say in solar pump, let's say. In solar pump, what type of power converter is the best? Currently, let's say inverters are used, VSI, voltage source inverter is used, but I want to explore what else can be used. So that can be a research type of funding, where the output will be multiple. Whenever you are done with your research, you are saying that I have come up with A, B, C, D type, these four types of inverters which can replace a voltage source inverter. A has this advantage and this disadvantage, B has this advantage, this disadvantage, etc. So that you can that is one type of research. That is a one type of funding. The second type of funding is a development funding. Development funding means there are no new things are expected, but you are demonstrating something to the world. That okay, let's say I want to build a small wind power plant, which will be on the rooftop, let's say. Okay, so then you have to say that okay, this is how the design should be of the design of the wind generator will be, and this is the converter that you have to use, and then this is what you can do with the energy. Okay, you charge a battery or light some lights, etc. So that is one that's a development type of a thing. Or you can have a product oriented kind of a thing. So product oriented kind of a thing means you can say something like I will make a very nice inverter that will be used in houses. Okay, houses generally use inverters which will take a 12-volt battery and generate a 230-volt AC. So I will make another type of inverter that can do the same thing, or you can also make the same type of inverter. But you have to say that whatever I am making, how is it better than what is existing? Okay, so these are the 2-3 types of funding that generally that is given. So based on this, you will be given funding. So you have to first understand what type of work for which you are seeking funds. All right, so that is very essential. Then in engineering, this research and product oriented funding is actually prominent, because in recent times what I have seen the government enforcing with all of us is, it is asking that can you make something that replaces some of the existing products that we are importing. All right, so that is one of the big change that has happened in the last few years. All right, so something like you can always say that okay, so we are importing this many number of let's say motherboards, so I can make a motherboard for you. Okay, I mean, that's a very big statement I'm saying, but I'm just giving an example. So this is like a product oriented work that is being expected. So any kind of research projects that we take nowadays as a part of government fund, they time and time again they ask us what uh, is the output of the product and of the project, and what is the product coming out of the project. And if a product comes out of the project, we are being forced to work with companies and demonstrate to them that our product is working. All right, so that means there is a conscious decision from the part of the government to increase our technological capability in terms of product development. So that has happened. All right. So in recent times, I have seen that in all of our projects, even though it started as a research project, development project, or a product-oriented project, ultimately they are asking something that can be demonstrated to the general public. All right. And then when you are seeking funds, that is one of the things that you have to you have to clarify in your mind when you are writing a proposal is, are you writing it alone or are you writing with someone? All right. So when you are writing with someone, that means, let's say IIT Kanpur and IIT Jaipur, we both write, then it will be like a consortium mode, because then both of us will have different objective, and both of us will have different funding requirement, and but it will go as a one project to the funding agency. Okay, so but if you are writing an individual project, then naturally you are the only PI, and you are responsible for whatever you are saying. So as you can imagine, that individual projects will have less funding, and consortia mode projects will have more funding, because it's like divided. Like, let's say if I am writing, I am asking for 20 lakh. If we are writing with someone else, then each of us is asking 20 lakhs. So naturally the amount of fund is actually increasing. So this is what about a research grant. So once you have that in place, then the first thing you have to do when you are writing a research grant is coming up with an idea. So you have to have an idea, you have to know what you want to write, because without knowing, if you write, then there is a problem. All right, the problem is that anyone can floor you there. Okay, so and when let's say you are trained in power system, so write a research proposal that is around power system. Okay, and that is around power engineering. Don't try to write on something on communication. All right, or don't try to write on signal processing. So that is one of the major disadvantage I have seen with many faculty members training their PhD student. Okay, so what I have seen that see, normally nowadays if you work on smart grid, so smart grid, naturally smart grid consists of many fields. So it consists of power system, power electronics, communication, data processing, everything. Many things it is encompassing. But now what I have seen that without students taking proper coursework, let's say someone is working on smart grid and someone wants to work on communication aspect of smart grid. So the first thing that they should as a PhD student do is they should take some courses on communication, because without taking any courses on communication, if you are doing smart grid, then you will get somewhere. It is nothing difficult. You will actually do something in 5 years and you will probably get your degree. But the problem will happen when you start seeking a job. The problem will happen that when you go and seek a job and say that my work is very much related to communication, let's say, then the job, the person who is interviewing you, they will assume you to be a communication expert and start asking fundamental questions on communication, which if you haven't taken any courses, you will not be able to know. And that is exactly where you will get a problem. I periodically see many faculty candidates applying to IIT Kanpur, and like someone will say that I know something about data processing, Okay, so naturally there will be a signal processing guy. He will think that there must be no data processing in from a point of view of signal processing, right? So they will ask some questions, and those guys will not be able to answer because the fundamental courses they have not taken. Okay, so that is one of the major drawback that I have been seeing in many of our PhD candidates. So the point is that it doesn't matter what you do, that's fine, whatever your interests are you should do, but take fundamental courses in that. If you are not taking fundamental courses, at least take it in NPTEL kind of a thing, so that you know what are the fundamentals of that thing is, and that is what I call expertise. Your expertise should be whatever fundamental courses you have taken, and based on that you start your career, and as you go on with your career, naturally your expertise will change, because you may tend to work more on control because of unmanned vehicle, let's say you are working on, and you may work on control. So then your expertise will improve in that, and then you can do better in that. So but as a fresh PhD candidate, you should have a expertise, and based on that you decide a research project that is around your expertise. Don't go beyond what like electrical engineers should not say that I will work on cancer research. No, they should not say just because money is there. All right, so that is not so. Many people I see nowadays, I mean, just because EV has a lot of money, everyone wants to do a EV kind of a research. And during COVID times, that was the most funny one. During COVID times, everyone wanted to work something on COVID because a lot of funds were there, so they wanted to work on COVID. So those are all. I mean, in my view, they are all defeating strategies, because your expertise is not there in that particular field. And let's say you are doing something that is closer to your expertise, I have no problem, but just be around your expertise, because otherwise what will happen is that when you talk to experts, they will clearly able to see whether you have the expertise to do the work or not. And one of the ways to develop expertise is, like I said, take some fundamental courses, and actually, like my father used to say, you have to do tapasya actually. So no matter what you want to be, so there's a 10,000 hour rule, right? That is called tapasya. So 10,000 hour rule is that anything that you do for 10,000 hours, you actually become an expert in that. All right. So no matter what, it may be painting. So you do it for 10,000 hours, you will actually become an expert in that. So something like that. So you should spend time in developing your expertise, no matter what you want to be. And then one of the ways, also another ways of developing expertise is read research papers, because recent research papers are very good indicator of where the research is going in that particular field. All right. So, for example, if you look at power electronics research, where the research is going will be very clear to you if you read some transaction, let's say transaction on power electronics. And some of the things that power electronic guys do is miniaturizing power converters, right? By using very high switching frequency, etc. Right. So you have to read research papers in your field. You have to take some courses in your field so that you build your expertise. And then when you are writing a research proposal, be around that. Okay, so that you will be more knowledgeable in defending your plan. Then another thing that is very important while coming up with an idea is take a look at what the government plan is. Like, for example, government plan is now EVs, building things in our country. So this is the government plan. We don't control these things. These are controlled centrally somewhere. But based on this, they are able to give us funding, because that is where they have earmarked that we will give this much funding to this particular fields. So if you can come up with an idea which is around your expertise and also as per the government plan, then that is golden, right? So then you have a plan that can be funded by the government, right? And sometimes this government plan will be reflected in the call for proposal. If you go to DST or SCRB, or DIT or any of these institutes, they will have a call for proposal, and if you read through the call for proposal, they will tell you what kind of a research they will be willing to fund. So there are two types of call for proposal. One is very focused, where they will tell you what they want in that call for proposal. Another is very generic, like anything on this particular subject is fine. You may provide your proposal there. So this is what you have to take care while coming up with an idea of a research project. So what I will do is that I have 4 or 5 slides. Let me just then all of you can ask me whatever something clearly, then I will probably provide you my views on it. All right. So then planning a proposal. So when you are planning a proposal, have the first thing that you should do when you plan something is what is your output. Okay. So you first note what your output should be, and from there you back calculate. All right. So that is why the main thrust in your proposal writing should be what is the output that you will be giving to the funding agency when you say that your project has ended. Okay, so if that is clear, then you in order to do that, you have to do some initial work. So I mean, normally I see this many a times when proposals are written by our Indian colleagues, that their plan and their initial work doesn't match. Like they will have a big plan. All right, so that this is my plan. But then if you think about what initial work they have done, or what prior work they have done, that doesn't actually match with the plan they are providing. So there should be some initial work. Initial work means some simulation you should have done, and some simulation results you should have done, and said that this is what is conventionally used. I am planning to use this. I have done the simulation, and now I want to build this. Okay, because it is a product oriented thing. So I want to build this, or I want to test this in a experimental environment. So that initial work has to be done, and that work cannot just be reading a few papers. There has to be more than that. That means you should have done 20 to 30% of the work initially before you even write a proposal. Okay, then it will have a lot of strength. All right, and then like I said, simulate your idea and see if the idea will work or not, and then have a timeline in plan. So when you know the output and you know where you are, you should have a timeline, like how many years it will take, and between the years, what are the things that I will need. I will need this equipment, this many people. All these plans have to be in place for you. All right. So if you go to the next one, so for smaller grants, the proposal writing is fairly simple. Writing part is simple. The planning part is not simple. Planning part, like what I said, you have to basically go through them, or it's not limited to that. You can actually go through many more of that. You can add to that plan that I have provided. But yeah, so but smaller grants, what you have to provide to the funding agency is a review of prior work. That is like we do in PhD, we do, right? We read a lot of research paper and see what work has been done. So that they will ask, like in India, what has been done, in internationally what has been done. So that you have to kind of provide in a few paragraphs. Then you have to tell your plan of the work. So this is what I want to do, and these are the steps in which I will be doing it, and these are my deliverables. So the deliverables have to be measurable. Like you have to say that I will design a converter. So you have to tell, like, I will design a 12 volt to 12 volt input to 2 volt output DC to DC converter, which will have 5 amp rating. So the exact spec, if you put, then that stand a lot. I mean, that will have a lot of value. But sometimes exact spec is not possible. But there you have to have a measurable deliverable. Like measurable deliverable has to be there, that okay, I will complete this new load flow program, and I will test it in a 16 bus system, and I will compare the speed of the load flow programming, something like that. So some measurable plan has to be there, and then you have to provide a timeline of how you will do it. I have given an example from one of my projects, that what are the measurable outputs. Literature review is there, converter optimization is there, low cost THD controller design is there. So one is a converter design, another is a controller design, and this is the how much time it will kind of take. So this kind of like bar chart is generally appreciated by the funding agencies. But now there is, if you are writing a larger project, most of the things will remain the same, except some of the things will change. Like for our UI Assist project, let's say in UI Assist project that we have here at IIT Kanpur, where 14 other institutes in India are there and 15 institutes in US are there. It's a huge undertaking, because there are 14 institutes in India, about 3 to 4 IITs are there. IIT Roorkee is there, Madras is there, Delhi is there, and IIT Bhubaneswar is there, right? And then there are other companies that are there in India, and then in US also there is academia as well as national labs as well as companies. So it's like a huge consortia. So when you are writing a larger grant, the main idea there is to select the consortia members. Generally select people who are not expert in something. All right. So expert is fine. Actually, generally select people who you can get along with. That is more important. All right. So expert is, even though someone has a little bit less expertise is fine, but when in a consortium mode, the more important part is that you have to get along well with them. All right. So that is the main idea of a consortia project. Then you have to properly divide the work, and funding also has to be divided. Then most of the things will remain the same. Like for example, let me just put the laser pointer. So for example, review of prior work, plan of work, deliverables in measurable format, timeline, all these things will be same. But then another thing that larger funding expects us to do is knowledge dissemination. So knowledge dissemination is something like you have to conduct workshop and things like that, because the funding is more, and you have a bigger consortia, so you have bigger pool of experts in a particular project. So they expect that you give short courses or conduct technical conferences, etc. All right. So so this is an example of a budget. Okay, how a budget looks like in a research project. So you can see that there will be salary. If you are hiring people from outside, then you have to provide them salary. So that has to be provided. Consumable, in our case, we actually in power electronics we use a lot of components, right? We will every buck converter that we make, there will be 15 MOSFETs that will be blown out. So so that we need a lot of consumable. So we actually put a lot of consumable in our project. And if this consumable part, they will only give to you if they are sure that you require it. Okay, so normally the consumable is not very high in DST. It will be something like I think 40,000 or something. If you don't specify, then there is a norm there. But then if you can justify that you require a lot of consumable, then they will give. Actually, they need to know what will be done with that consumable. And then there is a lot of there is a CRB norm for contingency that will be there. Travel also there is a norm. Again, consumable also has a norm. So unless you justify this, they will not provide you. And then there will be 20% to 25% will be equipment. So that is generally the case. And then overhead you have to put. So in India, we don't have to pay our students like tuition fee and stuff like that. So that part is will be missing in our budgets. All right. And in India, they will only allow you to travel within India. They will not allow anyone to travel abroad if it is a DST kind of a project, and unless it is a like a consortia project with foreign universities, they will not allow it. So that is what you have to basically contend with it. So we also have projects where we have foreign university who are collaborating with us. In fact, in one of them, Akshay Rathore from Concordia is collaborating with us, but I cannot go to Concordia and spend time with him. That is not allowed apparently. But he can send his students, and we will take care of them. So that it is very specific to the call of proposal. But this is I'm just trying to give you an idea of how the budgeting takes place. And some of the common mistakes that I clearly find when I review projects for funding is that sometimes something very normal will be shown, that I want to make a let's say solar like a solar power plant, let's say. So they will say I'll rooftop solar power plant. So they will say that I will make a rooftop solar and then an inverter, and then I will light some lights. So there is no novelty there. So that you can buy it from a market, and that's it, right? So why will someone fund you for that? So your idea has to be clear, that you have to say that no, I want to design a solar power plant which is more efficient, and I will compare it with the existing things from the market. That is fine. All right, but then there has to be something new in your idea. Okay, and many a times funds are bloated. So I see this as a common problem with many Indian researchers. In fact, I mean, I will be I mean, people will be very angry when I say this, but most of the times the funds are bloated. Okay, so in my view, the fund requirement is many a times bloated. Okay, so sometimes, I mean, I have seen it in our institute as well. Our administrators don't think that I mean, something below 1 crore is even a project. Okay, I mean, why it has to be 1 crore? I mean, the idea is more important. The money is not that important, right? Money should be such that the idea should be demonstrated. So that I have seen that, okay, people will say that, oh, below 1 crore I don't write a project. What do you mean below 1 crore you don't write a project? You have an idea which requires funding and it can be done in 30 lakh, why not? Right? So something like that. So in fact, I will tell you a story that initially when I used to write research projects, all my projects will be something like 10 lakh, 15 lakh, and they will be for 1 year, 1 year, 8 months, something like that. And after a few successful projects, actually DST scolded me. They said, why are you writing projects that are like 1 year or 1.5 year? And we keep seeing that you write it and then you do the work, but you give a little bit of less time for yourself. So write a project that is normally 3 years. Okay, so they expect that the project should be 2 years or 3 years, so that substantial work can be done. But that is again very subjective. It is based on the call for proposal. Okay, so I'm just sharing. I was just sharing with you some experience that I had with DST. But yeah, so then at certain times they will ask you. Many people will ask for a lot of equipment fund. So they think that they will have one project, they will have all the equipment, then they don't have to write a project again. That is not true. Actually, you have to write many small projects and start accumulating your equipments. Okay, so if you need a power supply, if you need something, so from various sources you start accumulating an equipment. It is like moving to a new house, right? So tomorrow when you become a professor, you will move to a university, to some IIT or NIT or any institute, and there you will be given a room. It is like your house. So now you start buying furniture. So you don't buy furniture in one day, right? You plan it, you slowly, based on your some basic furniture first you buy, then after that you slowly buy more and more things. So same is true with developing your research lab. You slowly make your research lab stronger and stronger. And as you provide output to the nation, naturally nation will be more eager to fund you, right? And then deliverables are vague. Deliverables are vague means, what I mean to say is that if your idea is not clear, you won't know what to deliver in your project, right? So always see it in terms of the novelty. All right. So then when you write a research paper, many of you are PhD students, so you must be writing research papers. So one of the things that the reviewer will be asking you when you write a research paper is, what is the novelty of this work? All right. So you have to be sure that your whatever task you have performed is novel. It is different from what has been done before. So same is true for a research project. So research project is nothing but a paper without the result. Basically, you are asking for money to provide that result, right? So think of it that way. So, but your novelty has to be clear. So what the deliverables have to be clear, and deliverables are directly linked to what we will publish later when papers come out of your research work, right? So this is all I had. Actually, I had some 8 slides, but now I will let you ask questions so that I can clarify many doubts that you may be having.
So I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
So how the proposal written for DST or SERB is should be different, or some extra steps to be taken care of while writing for any abroad proposal, like any faculty grants or student grants for IEEE, like that?
See, with IEEE, when they are funding foreign projects, okay, I mean, in my experience, when they are funding foreign projects, they want some very specific things. Like, for example, whatever research you have done, if let's say your paper has been published, they will ask you that, can you demonstrate this work, okay, or can you make a module of this work and show it. So they are very focused, and their funding is not very large. I don't think they will give you a lot of funding when it is a IEEE type of project, because IEEE is not a funding agency. They don't the funds is not earmarked for this kind of activity. They are just doing it so that it is like a part of the activity. So you have to be very focused on the type of work you will be doing. You cannot be vague that I still don't know what the efficiency will be, but I will design it and see what the converter efficiency is. That is not possible. You say that I will design it and my efficiency will be between 85 to 95% because my previous work had a 88% efficiency. So some specific has to be there, and some demonstrable evidence has to be there about what you are saying can be done within the time period you are saying. But in Indian, if you are writing a research mostly for DST kind of a thing, you don't have to be that specific. Okay, but you have to know what you are doing. You have to be novel, but you don't have to be that specific, because they are not expecting a product within 1 year or something. They're not. I mean, when DST funds, they expect you to have a research, and then you demonstrate something at the later part of your research. So you have more time and more funding to carry out your research ideas. In fact, what I generally do is I will get some funding. My funding is not for a particular research. Once I get the funding goes to many research that I am carrying out parallelly. Okay, so what that does is that I'm actually planting many plants, and some of them will later give me fruit, and some of them will not, right? So that is the difference. So in case of IEEE, like you named IEEE, it is more focused. In DST, it may not be that focused, and it may have a little bit more wiggle room to explore more things.
Right, sir.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Actually, recent proposal which I have done for the IEEE, it was just for $25,000. And the idea was very not a particular topic they haven't provided. They have we have written for PFC charges.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the funding is something like 17 lakhs or something like that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
25,000. Yeah. So DST will give you more funding. It like starts from 50 lakh kind of a thing, but you will have more time to justify it. But in IEEE, even though they have not specified anything, they will expect you to have a very specific output, because it will be reviewed based on that, right? So,
sir, suppose if there is any immature faculty, or if they haven't have any projects till date, is it necessary or told to write a small proposal instead of going for a large proposal at the starting itself? For the first proposal, I'm talking about. First proposal, if you want to write.
yeah, see, SCRB gives a lot of first proposal kind of a thing. They will give you some minimum funds, and this is like first proposal. They will not be very strict on you, but that first proposal kind of a thing is there in SCRB. They like initial project, like when a faculty first joins, so they apply for those kind of money. There are funds there. Which is provided, and generally when you are writing your first proposal, not walk alone for the first time, okay, so that you will be clear where the obstacles are. All right, so later on you can mix with other people and you will be more knowledgeable. So the first proposal SCRB will definitely, I know many of our faculty members from NITs and IITs will get SCRB funds.
Thank you, sir. So there is a question from one participant.
Okay, so
sir, tell me various funding agencies in India for PhD students.
Funding for PhD students, your faculty, your professors should decide that. No, why are you worried? They will get you funding. They have taken a PhD student, they should get you funding.
Participants can unmute and ask directly.
I didn't understand the question actually. So
actually, I think they are saying that sometimes what happened that student earn their funding and then come to the institute. Sometimes it happen in many schemes.
Okay.
So first of all, they apply with the consent of professor, then submit it. Then once they got it, then they again come to the institute with again come to the professor that we got this funding. Now we can start a PhD, something like that. So student itself earning a funding for their research. That is something he's asking, I think.
Okay. I think
in applied science
programs. There are programs there, right?
Yeah. There was different program, and this is predominant in I think some Bowman scheme, scientist C, something like that. And in some applied science also, this is quite famous that they are earning their grant and then coming to the institute with, professor. In the beginning itself, they have a consent from the professor that you submit it. And if you got funding, then come under me for PhD, something like that.
Sir, if I'm not wrong, there is one more thing like student research grant available with IAS, Industrial Application Society of IEEE also.
That is different, I think.
I don't think they give you for PhD. They like if you have a product, then you can demonstrate it and something like that.
Yep. Okay. Participants can unmute and ask.
See, the bottom line is that like who will fund you? Okay, who has interest in you will fund you. Why will otherwise they fund, right? Like why do our parents give funding for us to go for higher studies? Because they have an interest that if we are capable, then they are happy that their kid is capable and they are not dependent on us and things like that. And later on, if we have enough, then we can also support them. So you can always imagine that DST kind of organization will have interest in funding our people because it is there in their interest. I mean, government is earmarking certain money for research development, and that is what they are doing. But when IAS is doing, the IAS is primarily doing it to to make the industry application stronger in our country. So their presence will be stronger. That is one thing, and in a general good, the society will benefit. So when you are saying general good, society will benefit, your society is like the world is the society now, right? So the funding amount will be always less, because the world, they have to divide it into many people, right? So that's why the funding amount of funding will be less in kind of IS kind of a thing. Yeah, I'm sorry, you were asking something. I'm sorry.
Any other question from the audience side, please?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yeah, please unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, sir. Let's say, sir, my core area is electrical engineering and power system, let's say, and we want to do some work in cyber physical system, and we have the idea that case what would be our proper outcome or not, what we would be exactly doing. And after that, when we write for that project, so we haven't worked on that area before. So would that be feasible enough with that idea to go for to write a project?
It depends on your expertise, right? See,
we have not worked before, but we have idea. We have gone through some courseworks or courses on it. Hard about that, like that. Means want to work on a new area because the people work in diversified areas. That's what I'm asking. Sir.
So see, like I told you that in that case, you have to convince the funding agency that you are capable to carry out the work. Okay, one of the ways to do that is to show them that you are knowledgeable enough. You have done. Sometimes you can do with like MATLAB. You are able to convince them, then there is no problem. See, the whole idea here is that I'm not saying, or I never made this comment that you will never get funding if you don't have expertise in the area. What I'm only pointing out is that when you have expertise in the area, the other guy will tend to believe you more when you are saying something. Yeah. All right. So obviously what you are saying is correct, that if you want to explore cyber physical systems in let's say power system, smart grid type of thing.
Yes, sir.
So you
yes,
take the courses. So there you do some initial work, and then you go to the person, because they will be more knowledgeable, right? So they will know more about cyber physical systems. So they will ask you fundamental questions and try to gauge whether you can carry out the work or not. So if you can convince them, that's fine. So that is where so it's about convincing someone.
Yes, sir. Just another question. Cyber physical system is okay. Let's say to design a system means software, let's say, where all the wind power plants and solar power plants are integrated. Already companies are having, let's say 50 Hertz is a company and they are having it, but still they are not getting exact output, and you want to do something on that area, but your expertise is completely electrical engineering and you want to develop a software like that. And it would be integrated with some PMUs also, let's say. It would be fetching data from the PMUs also. So how that would look like, because you have your expertise on the electrical core area, but you want to go for developing a software. So that is difficult, but you have the idea, but how to approach for this? Means you haven't worked on making a software. So I don't know how to make a software, but I have seen that, yes, we have seen that, yes, nobody has much efficient software. So we can go for further development. That can be shown like that.
Okay. Yeah, so one way of, see, again, convincing will come. So one way of convincing your funding agency is to go through the, so why don't you present your or at least a part of your idea, don't give your core ideas, but part of your ideas to the company that you are competing with, maybe with the company. See, one of the things I'm slowly noticing with Indian funding agencies, and this is actually very true, is that if you are going with some company, then getting funding is easier, because in that case DST is less liable, the company is more liable, right? So DST will provide you most of the funding, but the company has to be there and then provide you some manpower support, some support. So one way is to work with the company and write a joint proposal, one way. Second way is that there must be other professors who might be working on this particular field. You talk to them and say that can a joint proposal be done. But if you are trying to do it alone, then there's nothing wrong. But the only thing is that you have to convince the funding agency that your idea is, I mean, I will be able to deliver that idea. If by talking to you they are convinced, then that's fine. There's no problem.
So in that situation, if your PI or co-PI whom you are working with, if he becomes, he has a background or she has a background from CS and he has knowledge of developing softwares, that would be a good one, or?
Yeah, good. Very good, no? So in fact, that will be very desirable.
Yes.
Because you will be from electrical engineering, someone is from computer engineering. That is very desirable. In fact, that will be make your proposal much stronger, because your team is much stronger in that particular case. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other question?
Any other question from the audience side?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Myself, Murli Krishna from India. Sir, while writing any project to the any sponsoring bodies, should we associated with any organization in a permanent position?
It's not needed. Actually, it will be told in the call for proposal. Normally, yes, they expect you to be Indian citizen if it is a DST kind of funding. But I mean, that will be told, like what is acceptable to them. So whether you should be there in a particular organization. So the reason they actually expect you to be in a particular organization is there's a reason behind that. The reason is that these are all government funds, right? Taxpayer money. So if you are in a government organization or some organization that is I mean, accountability thing is there, right? So if they are giving you some money, then if they are giving it to, let's say, IIT Kanpur, then IIT Kanpur has a R&D department, which is like any other government organization, right? So their belief is, trust is much more in the like in government employees rather than giving it to someone who is not a government employee. But I don't think that is a hindrance at all. But there are other proposals that are there from DST which will fund you even though you are not in a government agency. I have seen that. Like you can be like an independent researcher. If you have a product, you can ask for product development cost, and DBT, etc. will provide you that kind of funding.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other question from the audience side, please? So Divya, I think if there is no more question, we can conclude this session. And Professor Akshay sir is already, I think, joined the session. So,
yes,
Divya, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights about the various prospects of research grant undertakings and highlighting about the pointers concerning the same. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I cannot imagine that I could talk 1 hour on, on proposal.
that was a quite nice, sir, because I mean, last actually this is off the track. What is the component of funding? I mean, like let's say sometimes we see the team strength, sometimes we see the quality of the proposal, sometimes we see the budget part also. So what exactly the fetching thing? Is there any, I mean, equal role in a successful proposal or what?
If you India, I'll tell you from my experience in India, credibility is more important.
Credibility. Okay. Credibility means your past track record of delivering the projects.
Whatever you have taken money, have you delivered that much or not?
I understand.
Because actually, slowly what I'm thinking is that DST keeps telling me this, that they are actually marking everyone. So even though I don't think that will matter a lot in long run, but see, in general also credibility has a lot of importance. Who you are talking to.
Correct, sir, correct. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
All right.
You spend your valuable time. We are really thankful for you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have a class, so I have to log off now.
Yes. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shantanu.
Sir, we welcome you. Sir, namaste. How are you, sir?
हाँ नमस्ते. थोड़ा वायरल फ्लू हो गया सीजनल.
ओके सर. सर अभी क्या होगा कि मैं ना सर ये टॉक तो स्टार्ट हो जाएगी एंड आफ्टर दैट आई हैव टू लीव फ्रॉम भरतपुर टू जयपुर. तो जब एंड होगा तब मैं सर नहीं अवेलेबल हो पाऊंगा. ठीक है सर. सो आई विल जस्ट स्टार्ट द टॉक एंड देन आई लीव. ओके सर. हेलो सर, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
हाँ सर. सो I think within a 2 minute we can start because we have to start this at 6 o'clock. So I think all the participants. Yeah. Divya, please.
The participants about the tomorrow quiz that will happen on
tomorrow. Yeah. Just to inform.
Yes. So we'll have a quiz tomorrow. The quiz pattern would be questions. Duration would be 60 minutes. There won't be any negative marking. Link of the quiz will be after the online feedback submission. Both the feedback and quiz are compulsory to get the certificates. So everybody do participate.
Okay, so it's 6 o'clock now. I think we can start the next session also. Divya, please introduce and welcome.
For our next segment on how to write an IEEE transaction paper, we have Dr. Akshay Kumar Rathore, sir, who is currently an associate professor at the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Concordia University, Canada. He received his MTech degree in Electrical Machine and Drives from IIT BHU in 2003 and PhD degree in Power Electronics from University of Victoria in 2008. His research interests include current-fed converters and multi-level inverters. Now I call upon Dr. Akshay Kumar Rathore, sir, to begin the insightful session.
First participant was
Hello.
Sir, if you have a problem, then you can cut it short also in that case, because you told me that you are not well. Okay, sir. So accordingly you can manage.
Yes, we will see.
Okay, sir.
So I just share the screen. So good evening, everyone. So this is we have been discussing so many technical things in the first 2 modules, almost 24 lectures in 24 and then another 5-6, almost 30 topics in the first 3 modules. And anyway, the final conclusion is to, after your research is over, after you receive the results, the final thing is basically to document it. And documentation is very important because documentation has a classification. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, right? Tier 1, high impact factor, IEEE transactions. Tier 2, IET, and low impact factor elsewhere, and other international journals. And then Tier 3, I don't even know the names because nobody cares. Okay. If you publish paper in Tier 3, whose names are not even heard, okay, local journals, paid journals, whose names are not heard, my advice is to not even publish and don't even put in your CV. Okay. Because that has a negative impact. Okay. So suppose when I was in National University of Singapore, assistant professor in Harvard Concordia University. So every year we have a performance review based on that salary increment, and in Singapore bonus also, etc. And if the review committee sees those, okay, so immediately your impression is down. Don't think that they will see that, okay, you have 20 journals. If you have 20 journals in a year and Tier 3 unheard, paid, you will get 0 marks. If you have one IEEE transactions, probably you will get 10 marks. Okay, 20 versus 1. And that 20 puts very negative impression. Negative impression in the sense because they doubt on your ability, that you are not successful in publishing in transaction, writing in transaction, and publishing in transaction, so that somehow you have to divert through Tier 2 and then finally Tier 3. You couldn't even make to Tier 2. So your quality of results is not good, and your output is not good. Quality of research, deliverables not good. Your research is not good. You are not a good researcher. Okay, and that is true also. That is true also. That message goes, and that is true also. So somehow to come out of it, of course, we have to do a good research. Okay, you should get a novel research. Some contribution should be there, because in IEEE transaction, without a novel research, without good results, without contributions, it's not easy to publish. All right. And of course, you should do that. And after that, we should know basically how to document our research. Okay, how to prepare a good flow, how to prepare a good layout. Well, it's very important, right? Flow, layout of the paper. And basically, there should always be a connection. Flow means between the two sections, there should always be a connection. Okay, yeah. Somehow, the reviewer should not be lost. Okay, when somebody is reviewing your paper, reviewer should not be lost suddenly in your paper. Okay, reviewer should be able to see a very good flow. Okay, and very appealing or attractive layout. Okay, that is very important. Okay. So we will just discuss today. I mean, it's more about question and answers. I have some points to discuss, and then probably if you have any queries, you can share your experience. Okay, this is based on my experience, not only experience as an author, but experience as an editor, experience as an editor-in-chief. I'm writing all this. Okay, so these things are quite important. There should be a very good flow, the layout of the paper, and the reviewer should not be lost. There should be a connection between the two. Okay. This is after you have done a very good research, after you have received very good and novel results, and of course you have novelty and contributions in your paper. After that, these things applies. Okay. If you don't have any novelty, nothing, then of course nothing applies. Okay. Then of course you have to go to Tier 3. Okay. Yeah. But transaction is a prestige. Your photograph comes in. You get references, your citation goes up. The academic institutions, industries, they give really the importance that you have written a transaction paper. Okay. Okay. So when you write a paper, the first thing is basically you write the title of the paper. On the top of the paper, the first thing is the title. Okay. And after title, there is abstract. And after the abstract, there is keyword. Okay. So this is always the layout of the paper: title, and then 2 columns, right? So here you write abstract, and then at the, like abstract is around 200 words. Okay. And then keywords. So you write around 4 or 5 keywords. Okay. So this title of the paper and then these keywords that you write here: DC to DC converter, DC to DC converter, soft switching, high frequency. Okay. High frequency, high density, like those. Okay. So these two are quite important in selection of the associate editor and in selection of the reviewers. So when the paper goes to editor-in-chief, okay, so the editor-in-chief, of course, will go through a paper quickly in less than 1 minute. But these two are the major things that associate editor will look. Okay, and based on that, he will select the associate editor. Okay, so the good part is that it should go to the right hand, that the associate editor should be able to find good reviewers, because everybody has a network. Of course, the reviewers comes by 2 ways. One is basically automated search. Okay, because of your keywords, when the associate editor opens its account, okay, automatically he has the list of, he gets some relevant reviewers based on the keywords. Okay, the system suggests. Okay, otherwise basically using your keywords, okay, using your keywords, okay, he will have a manual search. He or she will have a manual search. Like we'll put source switching, we'll put solar, we'll put fuel cell, and then there is a list will come. Okay. So it is always good to have a relevant keywords so that your paper goes to the right people. Okay. Sometimes we always say that reviewers could not understand anything because probably the reviewer was not expert or reviewer was not in that area to review the paper, or does not have enough background. So reviewer thinks that, okay, there's nothing much in the paper. Okay. Yeah. So title and keywords are very important for the proper selection of an associate editor, because editor-in-chief is just like a postman. The majority of the work handled is basically AE, not the EIC. Okay. Everything depends on associate editor, the recommendation, selection of reviewers, then giving you a second chance or not. Everything depends on associate editor. Okay. Yeah. EIC is just a postman, basically, transferring from here to here. Okay. So always be careful in having a very, very good title and keywords, because this title and keywords will select these AE and reviewers, as I said, either through automated search based on your keywords or using manual search based on your keywords. Okay. Also, when you open the transaction, either the hard copy or if you open the soft copy online, you are able to see the list of AEs. You are able to see the list of AEs. Okay. So even if you can plan such that your paper should go to that AE, means your title, your keywords should be similar to the research area of the associate editor. Okay. Then most likely it can go to the one that you want. Okay. Probability is very less, 5%. Okay, or 1%. But there's a possibility. Okay, so you can look at the list of AEs already. And then you can think that probably based on the title and keywords, like this 4 or 5 people are basically, the paper can go to one of them. Okay, so if you want to increase your chances with one of the AE, somehow your keywords, okay, should be, say, for example, as close as possible, all of them, say to number 3, whatever the name is, then there is a high chance that it will go to him or her. High chance. It may not go because suppose this associated is already have five papers in his account to process and review. Then it will not go at all. Okay, then it will go to, say, somebody else who has basically 1 paper only to review. It has only, say, 2 papers to review. So they will not want to overload or burden the number 3. So we'll give to number 2 or number 4. Okay. So that's what I said. The probability is not high. It is still less, but there is a probability. Okay, that we can basically plan that way. So this way, the title and abstract very important. Title and keywords are very important. That it should go to right person as a AE as well as reviewers. Okay, and your keywords will decide based on the automated search coming from your keywords, as well as the manual search that the AE will do, so that it should goes to right people. Okay, yeah. And now when it goes to the reviewer, okay, don't think that anybody is free. This is voluntary job. Okay, it is a waste of time. Only thing you can do is that by reading the paper, you can get some idea, you can get a new knowledge, or you can you are supporting basically the community, IEEE, your colleagues. Okay, and you learn also. Okay, but nobody is free in today's life that much that he or she will read 8 to 10 pages paper completely sincerely. Okay, yeah, not completely and not sincerely. Okay, we did not even study during our degree program that sincerely. Okay, so there is no point that somebody else paper for free voluntarily you will spend a whole day. Okay, so none of the reviewers or associate editor basically will go through the paper completely initially. The reviewers or associate editor basically they go through these 3 sections first. Okay, we'll quickly see the abstract that what is coming. Okay, okay, what is coming, what is basically inside the paper. Okay, then we'll quickly jump to conclusion. That's what I did not put introduction in between. Okay, otherwise the layout is like that: abstract, introduction, analysis, and then conclusion. But after looking at the abstract, then the reviewer jumps to the conclusion or the associate editor. Okay, just to see basically what are the contributions. Okay, what is new basically? What is new basically in this paper? What is the impact of it? Okay, what are the applications? Okay, what are the application? Any future possibility? Okay, any industry? Can it be related to any industry? Okay, for example, fuel cell industries. Okay, yeah. So what is novelty in that? For example, you reduce the volume of the system significantly, efficiency improved by 2% or whatever. Okay. So they really want to see that is there any impact. So many times that people write abstract and conclusion almost similar. People write abstract and conclusion almost similar, but they are not similar. Abstract is basically just a short form in 200 words that what is inside the paper. Okay, that you are proposing a new topology, or you are proposing a novel method of doing mathematical analysis or loss analysis of a system. Okay, something like that. Okay, and then you have given a detailed design and component selection, silicon carbide or something, and finally for different voltage and temperature, for different intensity and temperature variation of solar, you have shown the results. It is like abstract. You are telling what is coming inside the paper. Okay, and conclusion is basically now to highlight your the strong part. Okay, now to highlight the strong part of your work, the strength of your work. Okay, to strength of your work. So these 3 sections should be convincing. Introduction. Okay, it should be in a very good flow. Introduction should be in a very good flow. Very good flow means you start with some application. That what are you talking about? Okay, nowadays I see a very good trend that people who are writing paper in energy, solar energy, transportation, everybody is writing carbon emission, fossil fuel, and climate, and like government initiative, renewable energy coming in. Nobody even read that. Everybody's writing the same thing. Carbon emission, climate change, fossil fuel, petroleum price, this and that. I mean, everybody's writing the same, the first two paragraphs. Nobody's even reading that. Okay. So no point on those basically, because everybody knows that you are not doing anything for carbon or anything for environment or climate. Everybody knows you are not doing anything. Okay. Neither me nor you. Okay. So no point in writing those nowadays. That phase is over. The phase comes. Sometimes people like it. Now nobody likes it. Okay. So that part is gone. Don't write those things. Climate change, environmental, petroleum prices, and then health issues, this and that. Just forget that. Just start with some industrial application. Just start with some industrial application. Okay. And then just start with the state of the art after that. State of the art. It means basically your references, basically in the past. What has been done in the past. Okay. Then come basically to your work. Okay, your research proposal. Okay, and then here talk a bit about this part again. Talk a bit about this again. What is new that you are going to present? What is the contribution that your paper is going to? Okay, talk about applications. Say, for example, transportation. So just say clearly that last few decades, transportation industries have significantly evolved. Okay, significantly evolved because of to introduce zero emission vehicles in the market. Okay. Then talk about, say, in India, there are 2030 mission for full electric mobility, and several industries are working in this line to introduce their full electric vehicles. Okay, and then some state of the art coming in. Just 2 lines are sufficient. Then 2-3 paragraphs. Then coming to state of the art, basically. That in electric vehicle, important is an important component that converts DC to 3-phase AC to drive the motor, and it should be highly efficient and high density. And in the past, people have done basically this work, and one by one introduce them. Okay, with your references. That this work was done, but somehow the number of components or number of switches were very high, so it needs high getting driver requirement, and control is complex. Just start writing those. Then your proposal. That compared to the previous work. Yeah, one thing is that I think that will be coming. Yeah, it is coming. Probably. Yeah, it is coming later. Yeah. Okay. After talking about all the state of the art or references, then come back to your proposal. What is your proposal? What are you going to do? What you have introduced in this paper? Okay. Just talk about that. And one important part is clarity. Okay, they should understand now. So far, what you are saying is basically nothing. It's state of the art. But say these 3 sections should have high clarity, abstract. They should understand because they are making their judgment now. That should I really read the rest of the paper or not? If there is a less clarity, if the reviewers are not convinced with these 3, then the reviewers will not even read the rest of the paper. These 3 sections, you have to convince the reviewer. Okay, writing these 3 sections, you have to convince the reviewers to read the rest of the paper. Okay, otherwise they will not even read. So this is the convincing part, and they will only be convinced when there is a clarity. Clarity means they should be able to understand this. If you are not able to understand, then that's it. He will say, "Oh, I feel bored," and then we'll write some reviews. The paper lacks clarity, novelty is not highlighted, and these are the common comments. Many times these are the common comments. The paper lacks clarity. The material is not sufficient to warrant a new journal paper. That's what I read as an editor-in-chief as well as associate editor. Okay, there's not even, and the novelty and contributions are not highlighted. Okay, not highlighted because you didn't write that. So these 3 are very common comments. Paper lacks clarity, novelty and contributions are not clear and not highlighted. And the paper does not have enough new material to warrant a new transaction paper. Or something like that. These three comments are very common. Okay. Okay, so this is quite important, very important. Okay, clarity. So when you write your proposal, then in your proposal, you have to write about your strength. Okay, you have to write about contribution and novelty. Okay, then the editor, then the reviewers will be convinced to go further. Contributions and strength compared to previous work. Okay, contributions and strength compared to the previous work, and then the reviewer, if it is clear, then the reviewers will go further to the next step. Okay, yeah. One important thing is don't use traditional language. Okay, don't use traditional language. It should be really technical. Okay, with keywords. Technical with keywords. Keywords are very important. How are you writing? Okay, yeah. And your conclusion should be strong. You should make at least one or two claims, basically. Okay, at least one or two. So here you should not appear weak in abstract and conclusion, because abstract is telling what is coming in the paper. Conclusion is telling basically what are the strength, what are the novelty, contributions, new in your paper. So if there is a novelty, if there is something new, if the paper is strong, paper has strength, then you should be able to write it strongly with claims. If you are not able to write strongly with claims, it means your paper is weak. There is no contribution, no novelty, no new material, right? So you have to choose a very strong language with claims, and those should come with technical keywords. Okay. Yeah. So this is quite important, that don't write things traditionally. Just make it technical with keywords. And in the conclusion, especially in the conclusion, make very strong claims with strong statements. Okay. Then reference list. Okay. Since I told you there is an automated search based on the keywords. Oh, sorry, there is an automated search by the system based on the keywords, and by putting the keywords, the reviewer will have, the associate editor will have a manual search. So your keywords, based on your keywords, the reviewers are coming. It means the reviewers have done their work in that area. Okay. It means the reviewers has done work in that area. Okay. So always, many times, basically, people try to reduce the number of references, like they put 10, 20, and they try to hide. If somebody has done a similar work in that area, you try to hide. So this is important part, never hide. Okay. Because if you are hiding references, if you are hiding relevant references, okay, who has done work close to your work, okay, so that his or her name will 100% appear in the list of reviewers. And if the paper goes to him or her, and he or she will see that you have done something, you have basically extended his or her work, but you did not cite the reference. If you did not cite her reference or his reference, you will clearly reject the paper. Okay. So, and sometimes the authors, they are afraid that if I cite the paper, and then the reviewer will compare and will see my work is not, my work is marginal, then it may not go through. Don't have that kind of fear. If it will not go through, it will not go through in any case. Okay. But if your work is closer to work of somebody, okay, and of course you have done some novelty in that, okay, don't hide that work, because it will go to her or him definitely. But if the reviewer will see that his or her paper is basically cited, referred in your paper, okay, is referred and cited, then he or she will be really happy and will forget that part. Okay, this is a tradition, because people really like that somebody has cited their work, because it increases their H index. H-index and citation count. These two are very important part for any researcher. H-index and citation count. It happens when somebody is referring your paper. So if you have referred the paper of somebody and paper goes to him or her as a reviewer, will usually not reject unnecessarily. Okay, because it is helping them to increase their citation and H-index. Okay, yes. So make a very big list. Make a very big list, high number or references. Okay, whose list is closer to, whose work is closer to your work, basically, so that the potential reviewers who get your paper, they really see that you have cited their papers. Okay, so this is one way. Okay, and this is the second way. This is about your plan. This is about your plan. In this plan, what happens? Many times, associate editor is not able to basically find the reviewers. For example, if they are highly loaded. Okay, then associate editor basically will go through your list of references. Okay, associate editor will go through the list of your references that you have done, you have written. Okay, so from there he will pick up the reviewers. Okay, so here you can plan. You can cite some of the papers. Okay, whom you want to basically to send your paper as a reviewer. Okay, so this is like a plan. If the A is not able to find, then he will go through your reference list, and from there he will pick up the reviewers, because reference means you have referred their work. And if you have referred their work and then did the additional work, then those are the potential reviewers, basically. It is very clear. Okay, yeah. Similarly, like you can see the list of AE on the website, in the hard copy of the journal paper also, in the hard copy of the journal also. So the associate editors who are basically in that research area, high frequency converters, DC to DC, this and that. Okay, so suppose there are 5 associate editors. So cite the papers of all those 5. Okay, it will go to anyone. Okay, so he will be happy basically to see his or her work basically cited. Okay, most likely if the paper is marginal or good enough, we'll have a soft corner. Okay, so references becomes very important. Don't try to hide. Cite the work of AEs, cite the work of people who has done very close to the work that you have done. Make a big list so that it increases the chances that it goes to the reviewers whose name is there in the reference list already. And try to add some references of some people whom you can consider as a potential reviewer. Okay. So that's what I was saying, that when you write introduction, I had given you basically this one, that you start with the application, okay, then move to some state-of-the-art reference work that we have a big list, then propose your idea, then talk about its strength, highlights, novelty and contributions, and with the full clarity. Okay. So this is quite important, that there should be a smooth flow and interconnected. Like application, then state of the art, then basically your proposal, its impact, contributions, novelty, strength, okay, etc. Okay, as I said, application oriented, it should start with that. Okay, after, and of course your topic, it should be related to your topic. Your topic should not be the selection of the industrial work or application should not be outside the topic. Okay, so this is the fundamental part. But as I said, start with an application. Okay, then the references, introduce the references. Okay, yeah, and then when you introduce the references, okay, this is one important part. Write good things about them and appreciate their work, because as I said, the guy may be the reviewer, so you are talking about his reference. So don't write that this has not done anything. Okay, there are lots of issues with this paper, so we are writing this new paper, we have done this new work. Don't do that. Okay, always write good things about that paper. All the references, write good things about that. Appreciate their work. That this paper basically has done this one, which was basically first in this area, or this work, this paper has proposed a new topology that is offering high density and high efficiency merits. Okay. Then you can, so just to give the credit for their contribution. Okay. Then the paper is good, but you can write, but however, this is not suitable for low voltage, high current applications such as fuel cells. However, this paper has imagined has assumed has neglected some of the parameters. And in our analysis, we are basically assuming those practical parameters and doing the reanalysis. Okay, something like that. Don't say that this work has not done this and then we are doing this. Okay, don't start with that. Always start with writing good work about that. Appreciate their work. Give the credit of their contribution. And then just write in 1 or 2 lines about the gap or missing part, about some assumptions, about some applications. Or for example, however, the converter loses short switching when the load is less than 30%. So this paper is proposing a new technology to extend the short switching range. Something like that. Okay. It's not that don't decline the work of others. Okay. Write good things, appreciate, and give the credit. And then just write 1 or 2 lines, the missing part, however. And then write about this. So, however, this is not there, and we are basically doing this using this other method. Okay. So this is the way to write the introduction instead of the art and talking about the references. Okay. This is the key of success actually, this part. Okay, now when it comes to your proposal in the introduction, okay, this is the thing, originality. Now the reviewer should be convinced, okay, what is the invention? Basically, what is new? How it is different from state of the art, the previous section that you have written, application, state of the art references, and then your work. So what is new in your work? How it is different from the state of how you just discussed? Okay, yeah. So is it addressing the same problem or different problem now? Okay, for example, there were 2 issues. The previous work has focused only one. Now you are focusing on the another part to solve it. Or the problem is the same, but you have a different perspective. Okay, different view. You are doing it differently. You are solving it differently. Okay, and you are proposing new results. Okay, by doing differently, you have got better results for it. Okay, so just write about it. Just write about it. So that will tell what is your invention, how was your investigation, and how did you develop the technology basically. Okay, these are just technical keywords, and these are basically, I just wrote in the simple language. Okay. So these possibilities, so you have to highlight finally as a contribution. Okay, as a contribution. And don't write blindly. Okay, don't write blindly because they will not trust you. So there should be some supporting statement. Okay, there should be supporting statement. For example, you should write that we have verified this using experimental results showed in section 4. Okay, we have verified, we have demonstrated the efficiency, high efficiency in section 5 and compared with the existing topology. Evidences. Nothing blindly. Otherwise, they will clearly say that the author has claimed a lot. However, those were not evidence in the paper. This is also very common comment that authors are claiming a lot. For example, you have talked about cost reduction, but nothing is there about the cost in the paper. Okay, you have talked about the volume, weight. Nothing is there in the paper. Okay, so evidence should be there. Whether the author will say that somehow authors are, or reviewer will say that the authors are claiming a lot about the cost and volume. However, those were not evidenced later. Those were not evident later in the paper. Okay, yeah, and you have to clearly mention what is the value of the paper, what is the impact of the paper. For example, if efficiency is improved by 2%, okay, so how it will utilize the source. If it is solar, then 2% efficiency will cause faster return on your investment, solar investment. 2% improvement in efficiency will basically how much of kilowatt hour will save or electricity bill will be saved basically in a day. Okay. 2% efficiency, how it will basically reduce the heating or the cooling requirement or heat sink size of the power converter. Okay, something like those. Okay, something like those. So talk non-technical. First is basically technical, say for example, efficiency, high density, and then non-technical, which is the impact of the work. Okay, impact of the work. So all this should be in a very smooth flow interconnect that I just explained before. It should come like this. Okay, now the reviewers will be convinced basically to read the rest of the paper. Okay. Then one section comes, experimental results or something. Many of the people, basically they make it very short. I mean, they put lots of waveforms, but very limited text. It is not right. This is the area that you should take most of the space, because this is the novelty work. This is your work. You are showing the results now. But suppose you are not discussing them at all. Okay, this gives a negative feedback. Okay, you should take good space. You should take your time to justify your results, to explain your results. Okay, and then show basically what these results are saying. What the reviewers or what the reader, not just the reviewers, what the reader. Suppose in future a new master's or PhD student will read your paper. Okay, so they should understand what your results are saying basically. What they should understand from your results. Okay, so it should be very detailed. Okay, you should not only justify. Justify means you are convincing, you are basically justifying your claims that you made in the introduction. Okay, these are the evidences. As I said, there should be evidences, and these evidences are coming here. So you have to connect with the introduction. Okay, this verification of claims, then you have to connect with the introduction that you made it. Okay, because these are the evidences of the introduction. So you should take good space, not just limited, a good space to write about it. Okay, what these results are saying, what a reader should understand from this paper. Okay, how you are verifying your claims from these results. Okay, how you will justify the impact from these results. Okay, so just relate it with your introduction. Okay, just relate it with your introduction and just write a final 2 lines at the end of this experimental section. Okay, that these results are new, never reported before, and showing extended range source switching with light load. Okay, causing a flat efficiency curve with load variation. Okay, something like that. Very strong statement finally, the last 2 lines, closing statement of the experimental section. Okay. This is some additional feedback. Figures should be high quality. If your figures are dull, the reviewer thinks that you are not sincere about writing a transaction. If figures are dull, don't even put it on the paper. Okay. Yes. English should be good. Okay. As I said, keywords and strong technical statements, not general statements. A strong technical statement with keywords. Okay. Because if this way you make a one short sentence, okay, that is much more impactful than basically multiple sentences, multiple long sentences you put. Many times people write a one very big paragraph. You can just write that one big paragraph in 1 line only. Okay. Yes, that is possible. Okay. And I advise that don't do online editing. Print your paper, read it and edit it 3 times, 5 times, then submit it to transaction after that. Because if you print and read and edit, you will get rid of this grammar issues, unnecessarily long statements, keywords coming or not, you will be able to introduce insight. I think I should write this. I think I should write this passive voice sentence instead of this. Okay. Do it minimum. Do it minimum 3 times. Very easy. Okay. And one thing is that when your paper has got a revision, that okay, major revision, and now you have to submit. Okay. Don't take it lightly. Okay. Don't take it lightly, because this is an opportunity. The paper is not accepted. After revision also paper gets rejected. Okay. So this is not, recently I have seen people have done, like authors were given 3 chances and then finally rejected because they couldn't do it well. So don't think revision means acceptance. No, even if you do revision 2 times, 3 times, still it will be rejected. Okay. So it is an opportunity. You are lucky that instead of getting rejection, you go to the major revision. Now you are given 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. Give your best. Give your best basically for its success, that it should get through. Okay. Prepare a response file. There are comments. Reviewer 1, there are comments. Reviewer 2, there are comments. Reviewer 3, there are comments. So point by point, like question, answer, question, answer. Prepare point by point response file. Very humbly. Okay, very humbly. Okay. And something you are not able to respond. Suppose they are asking for some results. They are asking for something. And if you are not able to do, just humbly ask for their understanding that you are not able to fulfill this. Giving a clear excuse why you are not able to do it. And just clearly ask that the authors really seek kind understanding of the reviewer, because this is not possible to do at this moment due to some reason. Okay, that is also possible. You need not to do whatever they have asked. Okay, you can request for their understanding if there is something you are not able to do for any reason. Okay, prepare very humble point-to-point response. Okay, don't make unclear. Very point-to-point clear response. Okay, yeah. Okay, and generally you are given a long time, but what I suggest is that, in my opinion, it is better to do it as early as possible. Okay, if you are not asked to do too much, then as early as possible, because they really like it that you have taken it sincerely and you did the revision very quickly. Okay, yes, and of course read your paper once again before resubmission. So in case there were any errors before, you can make it out after looking at the reviewer's comment. You can really remove your previous errors. Okay. So that's all. We'll be happy to take any questions, and if you have any experience to discuss or any difficulty, probably we can discuss and solve something.
Participants can unmute and ask.
Good evening, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Sir, as we are seeing that the impact factor is something that is fluctuating every year. So how to identify which journal to be better than previous one?
Oh, say again. Say again, please repeat your question.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, impact factor is something that we are seeing that every year it is fluctuating. Some impact factor is increasing, sometimes it is decreasing. So how to clearly, is there any procedure to identify which journal is better than other one?
No. Generally what happens that suppose as a power engineer, you will have basically a list of 5-6 journals basically. For example, transaction in power electronics, industrial electronics, right? Transportation electrification, transaction system and energy, smart grid, and JST, Journal of Emerging Sector Topics in Power Electronics and Industrial Electronics. These 6 or 7 journals are there. Yeah. So generally impact factor is fluctuating, but these are top or transactional industry application. But these are the top journals. So it doesn't matter where you are submitting. They all are having equal values. It's not that yeah, it's not that somebody once impact factor has gone and once impact factor has gone down and gone up, so their prestige is changing every year. It's not like that. Okay.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
sir, one thing I want to ask, that the IEEE is having two types of journal. One type of is that every journal is transaction in smart grid, transaction in power electronics, and some journals are IEEE system journal, IEEE IoT. Then both are equal weightage or they are different?
Yeah, yes. No equal weightage.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
It's just the name is different because the relevant society suggests the name, not the IEEE suggests the name. So that's how.
Thank you, sir.
Akshay sir, myself Murli Krishna from Karnataka, India. Thank you so much for the greatest lecture on topmost secrets behind the IEEE transactions. Sir, actually, while accepting the paper, the findings are the more important, or the way of convincing of the paper is important? Which one is plays a key role?
So finding is the one, because your paper will revolve around your finding, because throughout the paper you are talking about that only, basically.
Okay. Yes.
So finding is the one that you are convincing, which is the novelty and contribution, and which is the new, and which is the strength. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So your paper is revolving around it. The finding, novelty, contribution, impact, strength, what is new, everything is around that. The rest is basically the convincing part, that your finding is really worth. That is the convincing. Yeah.
Paper length is a matter in a
doesn't matter.
way?
No, doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Sir, which transactions are to be selected for submitting the paper? So, according to the topics or according to something else?
Yeah, I mean, generally they have written each transaction or each journal has written the scope of their journal, that which papers, in which area they accept the papers, and each society, suppose power transaction belongs to power industry, application transactions belongs to industry and society. So they have various technical committees. So you can see that your work is fitting into the technical scope of the technical committees or not, because the technical committee members, they review the papers mostly. Okay.
Thank you.
So from there you can easily find it. But the easiest way will be to just go through the proceedings. So you will see basically that which transaction is publishing more papers in your area, in your research proposal. Just submit that. That is the easiest way. Looking at the proceedings.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, then which one is publishing more in your area?
Sir, I have one question. Sir, is it like for submitting transactions, there is a direct entry, or only through the conference presented papers will be forwarded? Other than that, is there any way or possibility to submit direct to transaction?
Yeah, only transactions on industry application except after the conference. The rest of them, they accept anytime. In transactions on industry application, you cannot submit paper directly. The paper should be presented first to a conference, and then after that, you should ask the invitation to submit.
So regarding IEEE transaction on power electronics, also it was through ECCE Asia conference.
No, it's not like that.
Okay, sir. We can directly submit to IEEE transaction on power electronics or industrial.
Yeah, without publishing to conference also you can submit.
Okay. So what about ITech transaction, transportation?
Yeah, similar. Without conference you can submit.
Oh.
Yeah, those are flexible. Only industry applications has this policy, pre-presentation policy.
Sir, I'm Murli Krishna. I have one more question. As you said, IEEE industrial applications accept the papers through after the conference only, right? Yeah, but what is the probability rating of acceptance after this conference, sir?
No, it is the same. Like there's no impact of that. Only thing is that they don't want anybody to submit anything.
Yeah.
The probability is still the same. The paper will again go through like any journal paper review process through associate editor, 3-4 reviewers. Yeah. Like
so the review process starts from again 0, right?
Yeah, yes, it start again from 0.
Oh, okay, sir. Recently one of my paper forwarded for the IEEE transaction on power alternate industrial application. That's why I'm asking this this particular question.
No, it's a start from the basic again.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Good evening, sir. Sir, I'm Vaishnavi Srivastav. Sir, I have a question regarding the current advancements which are required in controlling of induction motor using the direct torque control method. Sir, actually, there are certain methods which are, it is becoming very difficult to conclude that which is the best method to improve the DTC performance. So, sir, as per your view, what is the best?
Yeah, actually, when it comes to control, when it comes to performance, we cannot say one is best to say for all time applications. Okay, to answer your question, DTC DTC appeared as one of the best one, but over time the new methodologies have come based on the applications. Okay, for example, the induction motor for which industry? For example, medium voltage, high power industry, megawatt kind of system. Okay,
yes, sir.
Application, marine applications, more like aircraft application. Okay, so there the conventional DTC is not even used by them.
Yes, sir.
So DTC is not used by them. Yeah, they have a modified system for that. Okay, they have modified system for that because their speed range is different. Okay, because their speed range is different, and all the time they are below speed. They are never above base speed. Okay, and when it comes to low speed machine, low speed application, where we always say that when we say DTC is the best one. Okay, but there also they have several variations. Okay, they have several variations based on the above speed and the below base speed reasons. Okay, so when we justify the control system, we cannot write one a single all time one. Single all time. Right? Earlier, if you see, everybody was talking about vector control. Now, actually, nobody is about vector control anymore. Okay, that has gone. Nobody even talking about that. Okay, now optimal controls and other controls have taken over. Okay, so if you see to get a better idea, like first thing, as I said, that it should be application based, and number 2, I would like to say is that read some review paper. Okay, from there you will get a very clear idea. Review paper.
Okay.
So just read review papers about control methodologies of induction motor or say synchronous motor application. So there, when they start evaluating and comparison, then you will get a clear idea that how it is done.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, because there are several attributes or merit parameters, not just one.
Yes, sir. Okay,
sir, there is one more question. Sir, please tell me the difference between IEEE Access and IEEE Samsat.
Yeah, IEEE Access has no value as of now because that is mostly paid journal. You submit today, after 1.5, after 3 weeks, you get major revision, and then after 1 week, you get the acceptance. So IEEE Access is tier 2, not tier 1. Transaction is tier 1. IEEE Access is paid journal basically. You have to pay for that. It's not free.
Okay, Divya.
Good evening, sir. Can I have one question? Good evening.
Yes.
Yeah, sir, if let's say after 3-4 revision round, our paper gets rejects and due to let's say without any reason. So can we put our concern in front of EIC or editor? Is there any process, such process?
You can appeal. Yeah, you can always appeal. Then reviewer, then basically editor-in-chief talks to the associate editor and then follow the process. But generally, if they have already given you 3-4 chances, then nobody will give the 5th chance again, because they cannot continue it for months and months and months.
So reviewer's decision is basically final.
Yeah. So you can always appeal that, okay, we have tried to respond all the queries, but somehow we, like the reviewer, got stuck in one, but that is out of scope of our work. Okay, or that is a part of our future work. That is different topic. We cannot add those results now in this paper. However, the reviewer is not having this understanding. You can just write appeal to EIC, giving a clear reason behind.
If they find it well, then they can take the referral.
Yeah, then they can reconsider. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So there is one last question. How should one approach for writing a review paper?
Nowadays, actually, review papers are not accepted by the students in transactions. There should be at least one person should be quite senior IEEE fellow kind of. The transactions are not accepting review papers now from students or any author. Either they are invited, or at least one of the writer author should be IEEE fellow. But of course, lots of background studies needed for a review paper.
So thank you very much for your insights on writing a transaction paper. Today will be the last lecture. Even though you were not feeling well, you have took the lecture. We are very much thankful for you. And thank you very much for associating with us from the start of the lecture, start of the course. Thank you very much, sir. And we wish you a speedy recovery. And Divya, can you conclude it?
Yes. Thank you, sir. We also want to take this opportunity to convey our gratitude for your continuous sessions, guidance, and discussions throughout the modules, starting from Module 1 on DC-DC converters and multi-level inverters, which covered various transportation technologies, soft switching techniques, multi-level inverters and their modulation, and various optimizing techniques, different vehicle-to-grid interfacing schemes. Module 2, which consisted of charging system, batteries, plug-in, wireless charging, small signal analysis, and closed-loop control, covering PI controller design, small signal analysis of a power converter, to name a few. Module 3 on technological evolution of DC-DC converter for onboard chargers, including economical configuration of converters. Module 4 on carrier development. Thank you, participants. We hope that the sessions must have added a new dimension to your learning process. Thank you again, sir. Just a reminder for the participants that tomorrow at 4 p.m., join the Zoom link that has been provided already. In the Zoom link itself, the link for feedback and quiz will be provided. Feedback and quiz are mandatory for acquiring the certificate. Thank you.
Divya, you have echo. Can you unmute?
So?
Can you mute it? Participants, there is one announcement. Tomorrow you will be having, you have to join the meeting. First, in the meeting, you will be provided the online feedback link. Once you fill the feedback link, the thank you note after filling the feedback link, you will get the link for online quiz, and you have to participate in the quiz as well as the feedback tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all the participants for their continuous showing.
Thank you very much, sir.